Hello and welcome to the Monte Games Numenera stream. We're calling this campaign Echoes Linger, and it's going to be GM'd by me, Darcy Ross, on my birthday. We have a really great adventure for you all today, and I would like to introduce the other players. So I'll be playing the world of this beautiful ninth world, technology so advanced as to seem like magic, and all the NPCs. And our players will be Monte. Who are you playing tonight?
I am playing Kalis. I am a clever Jack who works the back alleys.
Excellent. And what about Shanna?
I'm a Lara. You can call me Lair. I'm a graceful Jack who rides lightning.
And how about you, Bruce?
Hey, I'm playing Grandpa Iron, and I'm a strong glaive who fuses flesh and iron.
Excellent. And what about you, Sean?
I am playing Chem, a mechanical nano who commands mental powers.
Excellent. And this lovely, upstanding group of Shallamas citizens was recently shockingly cast out of the city after an echo of appeared within the city and implicated them in a murder. So there are these audio-visual echoes of the past that happen all across Shallamas, the city of echoes, and they are known to be absolute truth. If you see something in an echo, it is exactly the same as being there in person. And so a very popular actor of this, the Eclipse Theater, his name was Sheth Toll, was mysteriously died 6 months ago, and there was the city was aflutter with rumors about what might have happened. He was very popular. He was well loved in many communities. Even his rivals begrudgingly loved him. He participated in all sorts of the different kinds of programs that the Eclipse Theater put on, whether sort of avant-garde things versus more narrative storytelling things. But he was mysteriously found dead on the night of a rehearsal. 6 months later, the four of you were brought into questioning by the local constabulary of Shallamas, and we're told that they had found out about your plot to murder Sheth Toll, and there was an echo implicating you, and they could have given you a harsher sentence, but the Amber Pope has control over the city, and so the local Aeon priests advocated that we should try to redeem these people and restore you back to society. So they gave you the wonderful opportunity to be cast out of Shallamas until you have walked the path of Kalaval. So this is the original Amber Pope, the original Aeon priest, and the originator of the Order of Truth, who found immeasurable discoveries within the Amber monolith. So they gave you these wrist bracelets that kept you out of the city until you've proven your worth and gone and walked the footsteps of Kalaval. So they gave you sort of the path that Kalaval took, or was purported to take. Now that it's so far in the back, it's starting to come to myth as well. And so there are several places that he's journeyed to. And if you can go to those places and sort of report for them and find, sort of report on their status and look up into these various bits of myth, if you can come back with something good enough, they will take off your wrist bracelet, and they will let you back into the city that you love so much, some of you. So these bracelets on your wrists are thick, really, really smooth metal bands. They feel kind of cool to the touch, but they seem to have a heartbeat. And I say a heartbeat and not a regular pulse, because it sort of rises and falls, but not in tune with your own heartbeat. It's something else. So it's a very curious little Numenera device. But you've been slapped with those wrist bracelets, and you are now standing outside of the city of Echoes, and you are there's a caravan around you. They had recommended you stay in the safety of this caravan of mostly pilgrims that sort of walk the walk of Kalaval as sort of a quasi-religious rite. But you're of course free to go explore the various sites of Kalaval of your own interest. So the four of you are sort of camped out for the night. It was sort of evening by the time they got through all the right paperwork and got your wristbands acclimated. So you're sort of setting up camp, and you guys are sort of friends. You've known each other for a long time, so this isn't too awkward. But all these really intense pilgrims are kind of cloistered off away from you. So you have your own little campfire outside, and the sun is sort of setting over these plains. There are some sort of like reptile bird things skittering off in the distance, but it seems pretty peaceful right now. So what do you all look like? We have your beautiful character arc, but do you bring all your bags? Are some of you laden with Numenera? Chem, I suspect you're sort of kitted out. Tell us what you look like right now.
Well, I'm about 40 years old, and I've got just some form-fitting black clothing, lots of mechanical bits strapped to what I'm wearing, and a weird kind of like plastic helmet with a bunch of plugs in it that I say enhances my mental powers.
Mm. Excellent. And I assume you're mid conversation of how this helmet is going to get you guys through this trial, right? How
pretty much most of my
powers.
dialogue is about how smart I am and how we're going to get through this just because of what's in here.
Excellent. And so you guys kind of have a choice to make. There are several spots that are close, sort of on the walk of Calaval. You could go straight north to the Amber Monolith and try to go check that out. It's sort of where the caravan's going to head. It's the really popular sort of destination to get to. Most people don't go very close to the Amber Monolith. It is an epic artifact of the past and quite possibly still dangerous. There's also the city of Bodrov is another city in Navarine where Calaval was purported to it like gave some kind of miracle to the city, and so you can go check out sort of a ruin outside of that city. So where are you guys? Are you guys going to follow the caravan, or are you going to go your own path? Who's like taking charge in this crew? Grandpa Iron's been around quite a bit, and he's always got an opinion, right?
Well, Grandpa Iron says, "Well, which one's closer?" That's my vote.
I'm thinking Alara's probably been to Bodrov, right? If you've traveled with the troop before, you've been hired out to the local that city. It's probably maybe 2 days journey. If you have mounts, which this caravan kind of does, has large like mammals with really ridged backs, and they sort of have little floating discs behind them that people are being caravanned out in. So, Grandpa Iron, you advocate for Bodrov?
That's where I would like to go, but that's where they have bars too. So,
Is
Bodrov
that
sounds. Sorry, Kalis, go ahead.
Is that where that's where the caravan is going, right?
The caravan's going straight to the Amber Monolith.
Oh,
so
I think
path.
we ought to stick. I think we should stick with the caravan.
Are they even going to know that we've done a thing? Why don't we just stay here and wait for the time to pass and go back in?
I don't think it's time-based. I think something we do will unlock these things off of our wrists, and we'll be able to come back in.
I've been trying to get this thing off since they put it on. No luck so far.
I'm going to offer you a GM intrusion, Grandpa Iron, as you're gesturing how hard you've been trying to get this thing off. Would you care to accept it? Excellent. 1 XP for you and 1 for somebody else. So as you're messing with this wristband, you're sort of gesturing how enthusiastically you had really tried to get it off before. And as you sort of yank at it, it gives a little noisy twang, and you feel there's a couple elements of your arm that are metallic and machinery, and they start freezing up, and your whole right arm starts to sort of be paralyzed and is starting to give off little shakes and things. What are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to keep pulling it off to get the effect off, or how are you going to try to shake it off? You're pretty trained in how to repair yourself. What do you do?
Krail! I yell first. And Then I try and it's trying to paralyze my arm. So I have a little bit of bio control over my own flesh and steel body. So I'm going to attempt to power down, concentrate on getting rid of that feeling, which I don't like. And I'm also going to give the extra XP to the psychic guy, who at this point I believe maybe can help me repair myself later, but we'll see.
Ooh, excellent. Chem, good work. Okay, this is a level 5 difficulty. So are you going to spend any effort?
Yes, my edge is only 1 for that, and my effort score is 1. So I will apply 1 level of effort.
What's happening?
Oh, I was thinking.
Grandpa
I was thinking
Iron's doing
Grandpa
that.
Iron was going to try it.
Oh, see, I'm trained
see how
in
he does.
understanding Numenera, so I was ready to step in, and I'm smart. I was going to do this. But, if you want to give it a try first, you go ahead.
Yeah, so is this I assume it's intellect because I'm concentrating, not might?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll apply enough level of effort to that to bring it.
Excellent. So
Down
4.
by 1. And I'll roll.
Have you broken the
Natural
bruise curse?
20! Not a 1, a natural
Oh my
20.
gosh.
No way.
You even see that? Yes.
They're not going to be able to use the term cordelling anymore.
I know.
You
I
know,
just
that was
put paid to that. Grandpa Iron.
okay. Grandpa Iron, hot start. Okay, tell me what happens. So, with the natural 20 and with some effort, do you actually get it to not only you definitely unhooks from your metal. I don't know that you can, even a nat 20 would get it completely off. This is a very powerful artifact, but what function of it do you change, or do you learn something important about it? What do you want for your major effect?
I would, my first instinct was to go for something that probably is not going to happen. So I will go with your second suggestion, which is to learn more about the functions that this device has hidden within it.
Cool.
Oh, excellent. So the first thing you learn is that, so like, I'm not sure how you repair things. But some part of it, you actually pull a chunk of that wrist bracelet off. So you get the part of the carapace is sort of shattered in your hands as you sort of muscle through it. And you can see some little circuitry, some little circuit looking things and some bright lights. But you also see a thin wire that's holding some kind of liquid that's kind of blebbing out and sort of has these peristaltic waves going through it, and it looks really delicate. And so I think you initially are like, well, if I just break that, that'll free me. But it's actually way too hard to break, and it's kind of hard to get to. It's sort of really nestled within there. But what you can tell from some of the other details here is that you can tell that this thing is definitely sort of, it's got a lot of motion tracking type things. You've seen, because you're especially familiar with different kinds of bits of machinery. You've definitely seen one that's used in sort of technology that's used to navigate people. So sort of kind of compasses, vague location tracking effects. But another thing that you find is that this thing is there was sort of a ritual they did to attune these to you, and it looked like a lot of the Aeon priests song and dance, right? A lot of it doesn't actually do much, but something they must have done has actually tuned it to you. So you can see it seems to be resisting you with your own strength. There's some maybe almost parasitic relationship with this wrist to you. You're kind of nervous that as much as this isn't about time, there might be some kind of timer. This might be harming you very, very, very slowly over time. So
Grandpa Iron is going to, kind of take that in and get that sensation, and he's going to telepathically relay that to, Gem, I know we have this weird connection that sometimes you read my mind. How often can I trigger that, or can only you trigger that?
When we're in range, we can talk.
Okay. I relay that to you because I feel like Grandpa Iron will screw up that situation. What's actually happening?
Okay.
You can relay that to everyone else if you'd like.
I'll take that information and I'll digest into a form into a speech that I think the other people in the group can understand.
Very patronizingly. Yeah, how do you guys feel about that, Kalis and Alara? This thing is slowly kind of killing you, maybe, and also tracking you.
So when his arm first started to kind of have some visible effect on it, I would have just backed up, eyes wide. But now with that information, I approach Grandpa Iron and I take out my small tools and like my lock picks and everything, and I say, if there's anything here that you can use to figure out how to get these things off, or you, Chem, I'm happy to help. I don't want this thing on my arm.
To the best of my knowledge, nothing we have right now can remove these. But let me reassure you that if it gets to a point where it seems that this is going to cause a fatal reaction, I'm sure that you can just cut your hand off and slide the bracelet right off if you want to survive.
Now that's the funny thing, Grandpa Iron. You think that's actually not true. You think there's no injector that's still touching it to you. You think this thing is tuned to you and may be tuned to you sufficiently to act at a distance.
Well,
but who could really know?
I think it's already got its hooks in us too deep for that. If you're just cutting off your hand, otherwise I'd just screw my hand right off right here.
So even if we get these
do you
things
do that?
off, they're still going to hurt us?
Yes, afraid so.
Chem, you're the smartest person I've ever known. Don't you think there's something that you can do about this?
Like I said, don't have the proper tools and materials. So
And
when I find those things, I'll let you know.
Where would we find such a thing?
I think if we go to an actual city, we can talk to perhaps some other nanos who have access to the tools I would need.
Then that's my vote.
You mean an actual city like the one the frickin' Amber Priest just kicked us out of? Rim-ring idiots.
Grandpa Iron will
Chem, do you have...
get out all his tools that he uses to kind of, repair himself and show you Chem. Says, well, I got these.
No, wrenches and screwdrivers won't do it. I need some very fine tools of the Numenera. I'll take out my book of Numenera and say, Chapter 7 talks all about this. I wrote it. Trust me.
Oh gosh. Excellent.
I bet that's a wonderful book.
There's a woman who starts like edging closer to your campfire. She's not making a lot of effort to sort of be sneaky, but she does have her sort of hood up. It's like it's cool out. It's not particularly cold, but she's not the epic shady cloaked figure approaches. She's just kind of cold. So a woman kind of approaches, and she's got this. You sort of see in the fire like a glint of some bits of sort of like pearlescent, some sort of pearlescent like circlet that she's wearing, and she pulls her hood down and she says, "Y'all looking for a nano?"
Yes. And I will.
I'm Chem. Who are you?
Pardon my manners. I'm Jal. She's like really tall and sort of broad. She doesn't, she doesn't fit the stereotype of a nano. If I've been studying books all day. She's really broad and muscled. Looks like she can really handle herself as she sort of pulls her hood back. I'm taking the walk of Kalaval, but I'm pretty experienced in the Numenera. What are you looking for? What's that you've got there?
I point at Grandpa Iron's wrist and say, we're all wearing one of these, and it seems to be linked to our lives somehow. We're trying to figure out how to deactivate them or remove them safely.
Oh, my stars. You've got one of those keeper outers, huh? I've always wanted to take a look at those. Could everybody make me a perception check? So roll your intellect, please. I'm not going to tell you the difficulty. Let me know what level you beat.
Level 6.
Ooh.
5.
Nothing escapes that helmet.
5.
So we got everybody who beat a 4. Is that everyone, or?
Yep, I succeeded on at least a difficulty 4 task.
You guys are doing great. Lovely. So she's sort of, coming up to look at one of your wrists. Who sort of held out the bracelet for her?
Grandpa Iron's the one who's still got a wrist that's sizzling and, dripping, lebbing something. So he's
yeah, absolutely. When she sort of like extends her hands to go to like take pull that wrist closer to her, you see that there's a like her sort of torso. Half of it is glowing ever so slightly. It's sort of seeping through like the fabric of her clothes. There's sort of a gentle glow in it. And actually, as she goes closer to you, Grandpa Iron, you get kind of warmer, like a whole warmth is coming off of her that's much more than, just a lovely warm body. So she pulls your arm in, and she starts fiddling with it, and she pulls something out of this like really messy hair bun thing that she has going on, and she pulls this long wavy metal device, and she starts like poking at that wristling. So she sort of loses herself for a moment in poking at this.
I lean over to Kalis and I say, "See, I didn't have a waverizer. She does."
Excellent. Why don't you make me could you, Chem, do you want to like make a Numenera roll to figure out if you sort of understand what she's going after?
Sure. Yeah, I'm trained in understanding Numenera, and I'll apply a level of effort.
Lovely.
And I roll a 1.
Awesome. That's so good.
Grandpa Iron just gave me some XP. I'm going to spend that because I don't want to look stupid in front of the people who are dumber than me. So I'm gonna spend that.
Excellent.
So I'll re-roll, and I roll a 10. And I apply the level of effort, and I am trained.
Excellent. So I'm thinking your 1 might have been you're like so confident in your abilities that you sort of go over there. You're like a waverizer, of course, and you go help. And but you sort of hold back on those instincts for a moment as you're watching her, and you notice that she does she seems to like she pricks very gently that wavy liquid tube inside, and it sparks her, and so she sort of jumps back a bit, and you can see that glow of her chest sort of brightly pops for a minute, and then she sort of pulls her cloak closer to her. Oh, sorry about that. These things are really stuck on. I'm afraid I can't do anything for you in the field, but I can definitely give you some contacts depending on where you're going. There's Charmond, the capital city, which this caravan's going to, but that'll be quite a ways now. If you want to head over to Bodrov, it's closer, but a little dicier. But I can definitely hook you up with somebody.
I'm thinking Bodrov, just as the first start. Might as well take the shorter distance, see if we can find what we need there, and if not, then we move on.
I look at Kalis and I say,
Great, let's do that. Whatever it takes.
Excellent. Yeah.
I ask her, what's her name again?
Jall, Djall. Yeah. Alera, how are you doing? You're sort of watching all this Numenera nonsense.
Yeah, it was sort of a little bit of a I know a lot about the Numenera, so I'm just sort of watching what's happening here. But I will go to Bodrov because I am going to figure out why the Amber Papacy has set us up. I'm determined. So that's the way for me to figure that out. Let's go to Bodrov.
Alrighty. So Jal gives you the name of a local nano sort of like cartographer. So she's part of an order of sort of nano cartographers. They're really interested in places and the Numenera, sort of where everything is. And with the Numenera, where everything is not static, and so it's actually kind of a complicated field, is mapping out where things are when they're moving and things like that. So she gives you the name of someone to meet up with in Bodrov, Tybolt. Alera, you definitely know places to stay and stuff. And Jal does say, I've been on that road before. The only thing you have to watch out for around this time of year is the iron wind is known to come through in sort of fits and spurts, but I'm sure you're all...
The iron wind? That's really a thing? Like I've heard people talk about that, but I thought they were just making that up.
Jal looks at, Grandpa Iron or Alara and says, is she for real? Yes, unfortunately, the iron wind is a thing. She reaches into one of her coat pockets, and her hand kind of like disappears into the cloak. It is not a pocket. It is as though she moves her hand solidly through the surface, grabs something, and comes back. And she has a little like lightly bound sort of journal, and it's got a sort of a beginner's guide to the steadfast written on it. It's sort of handwritten, and she says, "I've been working on a guide to fellow new folks like yourself. Why don't you read up? I bet you'll find something useful in there."
Who's she handing the book to?
To Kalis.
Thanks, I say. And I take it and probably hold it like it's gonna bite me, because I'm not a book person at all.
Perfect.
Remember that guy that we had at the theater who worked for those live animals like 2 shows back? He had those scars. He said that he lived through the iron wind, but I don't know. He lied about a lot of stuff, so I never really believed him. But maybe he did. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, if you see it, run. That's all there is to it. So I hope you don't find it. I hope your paths are easy, and I hope you find what you're looking for in Bodrov. She starts leaving unless you have more to pester her about. She's done her good deed for the day.
I'm mostly going to be sizing up that aperture or whatever it was that she made, that she was able to reach into her cloak, and wonder if it would be possible for me in any way to get in there myself and see what else she has in there.
Ooh, she's wearing it. So, are you watching which sort of like tent she goes to crash for the night, or?
No, I'm just like, as someone who has perhaps picked a normal pocket or 2 in my life, I've never seen a pocket quite like that, and I'm wondering if it would even be possible, and sizing her up, but I'm guessing that it's not.
Excellent. I think you think that if you could get close, it didn't look like anything too fancy. There was no, sometimes these things have like, I'm sure you as an experienced pickpocket, you've watched out for things where they don't open unless like a passphrase is whispered. You're familiar with like whisper locks, and it didn't look like it was really guarded at all. It's just you have to know where it is. So you think that if you were able to get another chance of getting close to her, you could definitely root around in there. Whether you'd find what you were looking for, who knows?
All right. Well, more in the in the sense of experimentation and learning than anything, I will suddenly say, Jal, I really appreciate your advice and your kindness and trying to help. And I try to get really close to her to kind of give her one of those like friendly half hugs. And then I am going to try to reach into that cloak and see what else she has in there.
That's awesome. All right. So this is going to be some kind of dexterity check, dexterity roll. What do you have going for you? Are you stealthy?
Yes. So I'm trained, and I'm going to use a level of effort. I'm assuming that's speed. And so that's probably the best I can do.
Excellent. Give me a roll. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Well, I roll a 3.
So that is exactly what you needed to roll.
Wow.
Jal is just, for all of her worldly experience, she is also the kind of person who just like goes out and helps people, And so she thinks you're coming in. She thinks she's finally kind of turned you around a little bit. And so she was a little unguarded. And so, all right, so tell me how you do this. So
So
sort of go for the hug and
yeah, just the not that crazy full hug, but just kind of that half. Thank you so much for helping me out, and you've really calmed down my fears, kind of thing. And then I'm gonna try to slip a hand into that pocket or whatever it is.
That is delightful.
I assume that we've seen you do this before, Kalis, and we're just watching you.
In horror.
This is the thing that Chem had convinced me to stop doing back when we all worked at the theater.
It's possible he did it good enough that we're just thinking, oh, look.
I know.
Grandma goes, oh, I knew she had a soft heart.
Good job,
That's
Chem.
delightful. Your hand gets it feels like numb as soon as it goes through, but not fully numb. You can still feel you can still move your hand, and it's a weird feeling as you slide into that hidden possibly extra dimensional space, and you pull out something sort of like cold and solid, but it's pretty small, and so you sort of furtively pull it out, and she has no idea. And so Jal says, well, I'm always happy to help, and I assure you my colleague in Bodrov will be just as helpful. Make sure, I hope you get there fast and safely.
Thanks again for all your help.
Can we see what Kalis is doing?
Know that there are friendly people out here in the room.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Kalis. You didn't make a great roll, so which of you is so suspicious that you were watching Kalis for this? So, Chem knows you probably the best, and so I think Chem totally knows that you did this, or suspects at least, and the others, I think you were sneaky enough. So, what you got out of that was a strange Numenera device that you'll have to figure out. You'll have to make a roll to sort of figure out what it does, but it's definitely like. It seems like it seems like it's very like well put together. It seems like there's some bits of like light. You immediately snuck it into a pocket, but the brief moment you saw it, it looked like very like fully crafted. It looked like it does something very powerful. So.
Just to be fully honest here, if this is a cipher, it also will put me over my cipher limit by 1.
It is not a cipher.
Good news.
Yep. Cool. So Jal goes about her way, and you guys are returned to the end of your, get your fires dying down. It's sort of evening. Unless you're heading for Bodrov in the middle of the night, you're probably going to camp and then head out wherever you're going. So
that night, though, I would.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I would like to use telepathy to contact Kalis and say, "I hope you didn't do what I thought I just saw you do."
Since I don't know you're using telepathy, I'm just going to ask her. Kalis, do you take something from that lady?
You get double hearing.
I hold up the book that she gave me. And I say, "Look, I got this. Do you want it? I will offer that to Alera."
Yeah. No. Thanks, though. It doesn't look like it has any good electrical parts, so maybe you can sell it somewhere.
And in your head, I'm just like, you're better than that.
She's really not.
I will say back with because it's a two-way connection, right?
Yes.
I will say we are going to have to do whatever it takes to survive out here. And I'll say that with very serious mental tone.
I'm guessing that we know that Chem can do the mental telepathy thing. So Kalis, do your eyes change or anything when you respond? Is that something that I would notice and just, or
do you
is
have
it
to
just
tell?
sort of?
That's a good question.
I certainly would avoid it if I could, right? I'm all about trickery and lies and stealth and that kind of thing. I'm more of a con artist than a pickpocket, so if I can help it, I don't have a tell.
And I don't have any skills in reading people, so I probably wouldn't notice.
and I'm not good at interacting with people at all. So that's about the extent of my, trying to lift you up. It's like, you can do better.
Grandpa Iron has a tell. He just kind of mouths along when he's talking mentally.
That's amazing.
Even I can figure that one out.
So a lot of times, because he and I can remain in contact, whenever we're nearby, we might have a conversation and he's just kind of like,
oh, Grandpa Iron.
It's like someone who's
Best.
learning how to read and they're just kind of moving their lips along with it. But he's just, walking along, talking to himself.
Excellent. So, as the city comes to life with all sorts of lights in the evening, you sort of looming over you and sort of in the distance from your campground. Kalis, if you're playing this close to the chest, you've got this mysterious bit of Numenera. You can try to figure out what it does, or are you content to just have whatever valuable thing she was keeping hidden?
So I'm decidedly terrible at this. Like I have an inability in this. So I will, if there's a point at which I can come over to just, actually, I'm going to come over to Grandpa Iron, actually. And I will, if I can possibly do that when it's just the two of us, and I will pull out the device and I'll say, hey, Grandpa Iron, I've been messing around with this. Do you have any idea what this thing is or what it can do? It seems pretty interesting.
Grandpa Iron will close his flask I'm drinking from.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me take a look at that. And he'll take a look, see if he can figure it out. He has some skill in repairing himself, which is just enough to cancel out his inability with Numenera.
Perhaps I went to the wrong person.
He doesn't.
Why don't you make me a roll? Let's see if you can figure out what this does.
I'll apply effort.
Great.
Use the difficulty by 1 step. I will roll a 3.
Oh boy.
Well, this end here is yellow, I say.
Yeah, the yellow end. Okay, thank you.
No,
Exactly.
Thank you very much. And I will sigh and I will go over to Chem.
Dejected, yeah.
And I'll say, do you know what this is?
You hold it out.
Mm-hmm.
I use levitation to yoink it out of your hand and inspect it a bit.
Okay.
Maybe get out some magnifying glasses. And can I make a Numenera roll to
Yes, please.
examine this? All right, I am trained. I roll a 19.
Ooh, and a minor effect. Lovely. Why this here is a remote hand. It is an artifact, so it has a depletion, but it's not a cipher, which goes away after one use. It's a bracer-like device, so you get another sort of burden for your poor wrist. But while wearing the device, if you can twist and remove your own hand along a seam on the device, and that hand can still feel what the detached hand feels, and you can manipulate it. It's basically, you can unscrew your hand, send it off to do hand things, and at least be able to feel things at a distance.
So when you say
and of course,
send it off,
be able to screw it back on.
So when you say send it off, is it floating or is it kind of walking on its fingers?
Walking on its fingers.
Right.
Unless you have levitation, which...
I will explain that to Kalis. Say, yes, you can put this on and do all that stuff. You might
I'm
find
totally
that
wrong.
handy.
The detached hand continues to function as if it was connected to you normally. Yeah, I think it has to walk, though. I don't think it gets to float.
That makes sense.
So I will use all of my skills and ability to hide my thrill and excitement at the sound of this and just say, I see. Well, thank you. That's all really good to know. You are really, really smart.
This is true.
I'm always, whenever I have questions about things, I'm always going to come to you.
You should.
That seems like the most prudent thing that I can do. And I will try to take back the device.
And I'll just release it back to you and I'll say, yes, this device and my vast intelligence will certainly come in handy.
You are so funny, I say as I slap this thing on my hand.
Oh no.
Kalis, you're better than that. You don't have to laugh at Jim's bad puns.
But Shem is so funny.
He is. He's the funniest person I've ever heard.
Excellent. So the rest of the night sort of passes, and in the morning, very bright and early, the rest of the caravan is taking off in the direction of this winding road up toward the Amber Monolith. You guys have decided that you want to go to Bodrov, which is sort of a different road that's also well traveled and a little closer. But you're theater people. Do you get up early? I feel like you are creatures of the night generally. So maybe, the caravan's kind of half gone by the time you really get going.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other interaction you wanted with that caravan before you sort of split ways?
I probably would have spent the evening sort of being very sad to be outside of my city, but also I really do think, I do believe that the AM priests have set us up for some reason. And so I probably, if there are people who are believers who are sitting around talking, I've probably sort of situated myself quietly with them to kind of listen and just kind of see if I'm hearing any rumors or anything that like pertains to us at all that I could kind of further my maybe delusional belief that we're being framed and set up by the papacy.
Absolutely. So there's like, I'll give you the base level of rumors no matter what, but why don't you give me a roll to see, as you're sort of sizing people up and you're trying to be melt into the crowd. I don't know if you have any abilities that would help you with that. That's fine.
Well, I'm very much out of my league.
Straight roll.
16.
16. Very nice. So the thing that everybody's talking about around here, other than, how excited they are to be making this pilgrimage for the first or second or third time, is that, the sort of news that they're hearing about is did you hear, last month's pilgrimage, the iron wind struck and took out a lot of people. And so that's sort of very fresh in their mind. They don't really like it. And it's that you kind of find out about it by the way they avoid the conversation. Like someone will sort of bring it up, a new person, and they're sort of, it kind of kills every conversation it comes up in. And so you suss that out. It's not something they like to talk about. And so it was on this very road that the iron wind came through. The other thing is there's a lot of nervousness that the Gaians across the north of the Steadfast, past the cloud crystal sky fields, which is, sort of all not that far from the Amber Monolith itself. There's rumors that like the tensions between the Amber Pope-controlled sort of territory and the Gaians are sort of heightening. And the Gaians are still really not understood. Nobody really knows what they are. They're sort of a boogeyman around here. But there seems to be more than average rumors than there were in Shallamas about nervousness that like the strange, the Gaians with their strange Numenera spirits are going to mount an offensive, etc. So people, whether there's any truth to that, you haven't heard anything like that in Shallamas, but this seems to be key in people's minds. So that's definitely something of interest to the Amber papacy. But beyond that, you're not able to get anything more specific about, setting people up and framing murders, etc.
I probably arrive back at this little camp and am just like, these people are so boring. They didn't talk about us once.
All
Clearly
right.
they're not smart.
So you head north. You sort of get to that split point with the tail end of the caravan, and you're sort of heading west to Bodrov. Are you just like hiking? Did any of you steal or ferret away or borrow some mounts for this journey? Did you have any like kind of capital to cash in for this?
All my stuff's in my trove.
Yeah, I'm assuming we were ousted pretty quickly. Like I don't imagine we were sort of giving a lot of warning. Okay. Then I probably have whatever I had at the theater that night, which is probably not super useful.
Oh gosh. Excellent. So you guys are really resource poor. Okay.
Do we know how to get to Bodrov?
Jal's little how to survive the Steadfast has,
I'll hand that to Grandpa Iron here. It's probably in here.
Oh, yeah, and And what you notice when you're flipping through that book is that there's sort of the like northern part of the Steadfast, like Navarine and Drowalis below. Like those have like a couple, they have the tourist guides to those places. Not very well populated, but at least like take this road, watch out for Iron Wind here, some like major here be dragons sort of notes. But the back pages of the book are blank. So it seems like this is she sort of handed it to you like, ta-da, here's the beginner's guide. But it seems to be very much a work in progress, and most of it isn't written yet. So, but definitely, and Bodrov is like the next closest city, so it's not hard to know that you have to go down that road. So the road that you're sort of on is filled, like as you split from the sort of earth just well-worn like pilgrim's path to the amber monolith, this path that you're on is is at first just sort of surface drit of that particulate matter of worn down machinery and tech and maybe organic stuff too, right? But there are parts of it that have been sort of windswept away, and below you see that there are these like huge hexagonal panels that you're sort of walking on beneath the drit. So there seems to be this, and it seems to extend quite a ways. So like all day today, as you're traveling and just walking and walking, you're sort of stepping on these hexagonal panels.
Do they seem to have any electrical elements to them at all? I mean, are they dead? Are they alive? Like, I would certainly take some time.
Great point.
I'm a quick mover, so I would probably take time, look at the thing, catch up to the group, and so do I notice about them at all?
The first couple, as soon as you see that hexagonal panel, you're like, this is totally something that could have electricity in it. But the first ones that are right outside of the city gates are totally dead. But you can tell that there are components inside that they might be active later. And so about midway through the day, like you're passing sort of little villages and sort of farmland. This whole country is full of like really rich farmland. And there's a number of these really friendly many-headed mammals that have sort of poofy like arm shoulder wings, right? Not wings, but like feather protrusions. They're very charming, very sweet and docile. So there's lots of these herds around. So that's sort of what you're passing as you're going. But these, you eventually come upon a panel that does seem to have electricity like coursing through it. It doesn't actually look too much different from the others, but there's that spark in the air. I figure you're pretty good at sensing when something's electrically active.
Yeah, I want to just take a minute while everybody's walking to check it out. I promise I'll catch up to you guys. You don't have to wait for me. I'll be fast. I just spent a few minutes checking it out. I'm specialized in the Numenera. Mm-hmm. I rolled an 18.
An 18, and you're specialized. Wow, very, very good. So what do you use to like manipulate it or feel it out? Do you use
a bag of like tools and a bag of batteries and cells, and so I have all this. I have a whole like thing that kind of I wear around my waist. It's got all this stuff in it, and so I'm probably pretty good with them. And I pull out what I think I need. We'll see if that's useful.
Excellent. So as you're sort of touching this panel, you notice that it's like lights up a little bit where your hands sort of get close to it. And when you have your sort of little electrical tinkering tools coming close to it, it seems like there's light that sort of gathers near sort of metal or anything kind of conductive, right? Even your skin is just a little bit conductive. So it's sort of doing this reactive thing, and you're eventually able to trace. You find like the tiniest, only your like really advanced level of experience with Numenera, and you're just the right tool for the job. You actually uncover a little groove that's just barely there. That the electricity reacts differently when it moves through, and so you pull the electricity and you trace it through that little pattern, and the whole hexagonal panel sort of apertures out, like apertures away, and so there's this hexagonal space, and there's a very curious furry mammal sort of like nuzzling over to you out of curiosity as you're standing in one place long enough. But what's revealed below is there's a little bit of a drop, and then there's some kind of liquid. There seems to be like a pool underneath, and there's some kind of bioluminescent fungi up on what is the ceiling of that place right beneath you. So it's lit a little bit, but it seems like this really kind of vast cavern and water and fungi area.
And so the liquid is actually, I think it's water. I don't think it's like a special conductor or something like that.
You're not quite sure. It is some kind of liquid. So if you sort of try to, you sort of poke at it with a stick or something.
I'm more, since I promised not to hold these guys up, I'm more likely to take a container out of my bag and see if I can, without touching it, actually get some in the container and close it up, and I'll take it with me for testing later. And I would want to close the panel back up in case that's an important part of it. So just and kind of remember where it is and come back.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you pull that water out, it's got you definitely see when you can hold it up in more proper light, it's moving with a viscosity that is definitely not water. It's sort of got a little more jiggle to it, a little more gelatinous than quite water, but it's not quite one or the other. And it's a little like silver flecked. There's some shiny things sort of floating around, suspended in it. They sort of settle down when you sort of hold it for a moment, and you can shake it up, and they sort of sparkle through it. And you're able to draw, you find another one of those patterns. It looks like there's actually a number of those grooves that might do different things if you pulled the energy through them differently. But you find one that is like the only bit of exposed area of that hexagonal, and you're able to close it. So
cool.
Yeah, you'll note that for later.
There's
a very curious mammal. Cool.
Well, meanwhile, Grandpa Iron actually only went a few paces farther along because he always looks for an opportunity to, he doesn't really get tired because he's made partly of iron and steel, but he also does like to sit. So he has an oddity, which is a chair that he can pull out of an extra dimensional space. So he's actually like a 20, 30 feet farther along sitting in his chair.
Is it like a, like foldy chair? Is it like a big throne? What kind of chair are we talking here?
I imagine
does it float
as a chair, but it's probably just some weird, thing
right
under this extra dimensional space that has a spot where he can sit, but it's probably got some pipes and wires and drinks, He calls
and you're good with tinkering. Have you hammered it into Grandpa Iron shape or sort of made it your own?
Yeah, I'm good with tinkering, and it used to do other things, but not now. So.
Excellent.
I suppose if you sit on it long enough, it will eventually be Grandpa Iron shaped.
Excellent.
We gotta get you some meals for that thing, Grandpa. Let's go.
I like the way you think. All right, I'll stow it again though and get up and.
Excellent. So you keep going, and the sort of the rest of the night sort of passes uneventfully. There are some I'm not sure how, are you guys hustling to Bodrov, or if you find something curious? It sounds like Alara is pretty curious. So there are a couple things you pass that you might have wanted to check out. So there's sort of a sunken tower that's sort of sunken and fallen to the side a little bit. It looks like it was probably used relatively recently by some village or something where people were living in it, but it seems pretty abandoned now. There's
offer shelter to us?
Quite possibly. And as the night draws to a close, it might be worth it. But it's rather big. It's like many stories, but fallen over. So it's actually sort of long at this point. So it's made of these it's got a really cool scale quality to it, like little scales all nestled within each other. And it looks like whatever material that is just really resistant to sort of weather. So it's very, very even though it's completely abandoned, there's sort of remnants of wooden staircases that used to be there but are sort of not there anymore. But the building itself looks really, really sturdy. So what do? Do you just sort of who checks it out first?
I tell everybody to wait, and I'm going to see if I can sense Numenera in there. So I can just kind of focus on the area and see if I sense any unusual Numenera in that space.
Excellent. So the answer is definitely yes. This place is kind of a there's definitely some major pieces of Numenera. What might actually be built into the tower itself. This place looks like it's kind of been salvaged. There have been pieces taken away for use elsewhere, but the tower itself seems to have some kind of currents or energies associated with it that make you think there's some Numenera going on here. Do you want to make a roll to determine anything more specific?
That's really about the extent of what I can tell.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I would be willing to move up and kind of just make sure there isn't going to be someone who's going to come out and try to mug us or something. Whenever I've had to squat in a ruin, that's the main threat. But that's
Excellent.
Of course back in the city. I don't know what to expect out here, but I'm happy to not sleep outside because that is weird.
Excellent. This is a great place for a setup, for an ambush. So why don't you, are you going to like make a scope around it? Are you going to sneak up in it? How are you approaching this?
I'll probably kind of do maybe like a half circle around it and then try to figure out the best way to go inside and then stealthily move up and peek in. I'm not going to like start poking around and investigate by myself. I'm just checking out to make sure if there's anybody or anything in there.
Excellent. All right. So I am going to offer you a GM intrusion. I've misplaced my XP, so you'll have to hold up your own. Would you care to accept it? I don't have any XP. I gave you nothing to refuse it. Ha! Lucky me. All my plans coming to together perfectly.
I refused it anyway.
All right. So one XP for you. It is my birthday. No refusing GM intrusions on your birthday. That's a rule. Cool. Nice. One for you, one for somebody else. So you are sort of masterfully, quietly sort of scoping this place out. And there's what has become an archway. It looks like it might have been sort of a long window when it was upright, but now it's sort of this sort of very tall doorway, sort of archway. And that looks like kind of the safest entry point. So you start scoping it out, and part of your hand sort of brushes up against that scaly material that the tower is made of, and it immediately is stuck to it. And we're going to take a 5-minute break on that just to grab water and stuff. But we have Kalis absolutely stuck onto that archway, looking very perplexed.
All right.
We are rearranged so that
I am,
people can see us.
I'm going to do my best not to panic. And in fact, I would like to try to not even reveal that anything weird has happened. And instead, I'm just going to try to get myself free.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll just start by like trying to pull and twist and get my arm off.
Okay. So without expending some effort or a good roll, that's not initially easy to do. So it's not just like an adhesive. So I'm going to need probably a speed roll or possibly a might. So with speed, you might be able to sort of like pry little bits of your hand off or sort of get leverage on it. So tell me how you want to do it.
Well, I'm definitely going to use speed if I can, because I'm not strong, but I mostly just kind of want to twist it, like if it's some kind of weird force that's holding me through. Maybe if I twist it there, if I twist my arm so that there's less arm like against the tower or whatever, then maybe I can pull it away or something like that. And I will use effort.
Okay.
But I don't have any special skills in anything like this. I am skilled at assessing danger, but apparently not as skilled as I thought.
Okay. So what was your roll?
I roll a 20.
Nice.
A 20. Okay, cool. You get two great things that happen. So first, there's a so I said that these were covered in scales, right? Some sort of synth scale situation. And you're like really adjusting yourself and just trying to get just the right way to have your hand intact and also not attached to the building ideally. And you notice as you're sort of manipulating these scales in your hand, one of those scales has a little ridge on it, and when you hold it, it actually sort of pulls out of the building in just a particular way, and a cluster of these scales sort of fall off and seem to shrivel up a little bit, like you've sort of disarmed some kind of or it's almost like a plant defense or something. It seems more organic than this building would have otherwise led you to believe, and so you perfectly free yourself of the situation. Lovely. It also gives you a heads up that there is a you are not alone here. Inside that building, there's some odd devices around. And 1 second. And scary noises. So there's like a glowing cube in the center of this mostly dark room. It just sort of like sunset coming through these open archways and stuff. And there's also a huge hulking figure with big horns atop its head that you have sort of noticed before it noticed you. So you sort of, before you can shout to your friends, you notice that there's this sort of big spooky figure inside.
What I would like to do is, as quietly as possible, gather up like a handful of those scales that fell away and go back to my friends without making any noise or quick movements or anything like that.
Awesome. With a natural 20, and you really like noticed the instant it was possible to notice this creature, you nimbly sort of step away before it seems to notice you, at least by hearing. So you get back to your friends.
Okay. So I come around and I just say very, very quietly, I just say, I don't know what that thing is. My aunt would have probably called it a demon, but there's something in there, and I think we ought to just keep moving as fast as we can.
But it's about time to camp for the night, though, right?
Well, not with the big thing with horns and no.
Well, I
keep
think
moving.
With my mental blast and Lair's electricity and Grandpa Iron's hammer, I think we can take it.
I've got an axe.
I have an axe. Sorry. I don't really pay attention to names of mundane objects.
Fair. Where is this horn thing? Look, says Grandpa Iron to Kalis.
It might be guarding something, Kalis. Something very valuable.
I have to, I don't always agree with Kalis, but I have to agree with Kalis here. Like, we should not be going into something with giant horns, and I don't know.
It could be like that show we did 6 months ago, right before the guy died, where, it was actually just
the show. He dies.
No, he died outside the show. But no, it was an actor with the horns and the costume. And
No, this is not an actor in the costume. I know disguises. This isn't that. This is some kind of huge, terrible creature that I don't even really want to know anything more about. And, look at this place. It is a perfect ambush spot. It clearly, that's what's going on here. Only because I was able to slip away quietly was I even able to not fall prey to this trap. Why would we spring it now?
Now, you were able to see in because...
Well, I can defend us. I've killed actual things that weren't actors before, but I'm happy to get along and leave it in peace.
Does Grandpa Iron think he killed that guy? The rest of you don't think you killed that guy.
No, he's saying
Is he confused?
He's killed things in the past that weren't actors. Because sorry, he's confused.
No, that's delightful.
In the play, in the theater, a couple times he had to go and pretend to kill actors, right? So he's not.
I think we go.
Well, it seems that I am outvoted, so the math wins.
Okay.
I knew. See, you are smart.
I can add up to 3. Yes.
No, I just mean, you understand that this is the wiser course of action, and I'm happy to go along with you on it.
Good. I'm glad you see it that way. Shall we?
Excellent.
We're lucky to have you.
You are. I'm glad you understand. Finally, I'm seeing the appreciation from these people.
As you sort of you have that conversation kind of quickly and presumably quietly, and as you sort of turn away from that tower, you see that many more of those windows that have sort of been turned into long archways have like sort of shapes are moving into sort of backlit by the setting sun into those spots. And so there seems to be many more than the one you saw, but you are sort of already quietly scuttling away, I assume?
Yes,
Quickly.
let's go.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So you hightail it, and nothing seems to follow you, at least at first. But so how far are you going to go? To get out of, this is a big tower, and those are a lot of things. Are you going to hustle away a while, or are you going to try to hide yourselves? What's your plan here?
So I have traveled to this town before. So how far do I think we are? Like, are we a day or a couple days or?
Yeah. So you've had kind of one, mostly full day of pretty good hustling. And so you'd reach it by like tomorrow evening, probably, if things went well.
We do need a place to camp. Okay. So let's see if we can find a safer spot, because I am not dying for the amber papacy. Let's just put that out there right now.
If there's at all any light left whatsoever, I think we should go until that dies away, and then find a place, even if it's just right on the road, right off the road.
Excellent. So yeah, are you looking for like a hollow, a natural place? Or are you looking for another, a natural looking place? Or are you looking for something that, might be sort of a way station for travelers or something? You're trying to look.
If we find a place not like travelers, we'll definitely check that out. But someplace high, back when Grandpa Iron traveled, trying to get up someplace high and to get a kind of a lookout, not necessarily a hollow, might be better.
Excellent. So it takes you, a little further deeper into night than you really would have hoped. But by the time it's sort of the dark of night and you're ready to kind of start looking for a spot, you notice that you're starting to get on this like the path sort of takes you on this like ravine, sort of up alongside sort of some steeper, like the hills have sort of given way to this higher, almost unnaturally like even landing. And so it's just sort of the road and kind of a steep drop off and sort of steep hill above. And so you have to kind of push through further as the stars come in, and it's really very beautiful, but you're definitely starting to get tired. And I am going to offer a GM intrusion to Alara.
I can't not take it. But take them anyway. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So Alara, you guys are looking for a place to camp for the night. It's pretty late now, and so what the bracelet does something to you. So pause for dramatic effect and noise. Yes. So your abilities are sort of to use electricity are pretty unusual, right? They're sort of like they're a mysterious gift, right? What can you do with electricity? You can.
I sort of have it within my body, so I can use it to shock creatures or living beings. I can use it to sort of bring like dead electronics back to life, and so I can kind of jumpstart things. I sort of think of it as like a living current that is in my body and connects me to things that most people think are inanimate, but which I know actually have like a pulse and a living essence inside them.
Ooh, awesome. That actually meshes really interestingly with the device that's around your hand, right? There's sort of this strange like liquid and bit of devices that has its own pulse. And so I think as you're starting to get tired, you don't notice until it's a little too late. So that bracelet of yours, you feel your heartbeat and sort of your energy levels and all the cells in your body seem to like sort of go on high alert for a second, and you start feeling your heartbeat start syncing with that bracelet, and it's going very, very fast right now. So let's see, it feels very, very stressful. It's putting you sort of on high alert for no good reason. What are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to like calm your heart down, or mess with the bracelet more?
Yeah, so well, first I'm going to give my XP to Kalis for being smart enough to run from the things her aunt calls demons. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my my abilities to see if I can. So I, of course I was watching these guys as everyone was playing around with their bracelets and trying to figure it out. And I was listening to Jal as she was talking about kind of what they did and stuff. And so I want to use my knowledge and see if I can figure out how to make it be less connected to me. So I want to figure out what it's doing, and then see if I can figure out how to, I don't necessarily need to take it off, but I don't like the fact that it is connected to my internal living electricity. That's just not an okay thing for me. So I'm specialized in the Numenera, and I will use a level of effort. And I rolled 15.
Wonderful. So, you're used to thinking about some Numenera and some electricity based things as living beings, right? You sort of are interested in expanding what we understand of as its own living thing, and so you're watching it, and you modulate your own sort of heart, and you sort of move the electricity around, and it reacts to that, and it had synced up with you in a really intense way, and it was actually making you feel fear. Like it was all of the reactions. It wasn't just your heart rate. It was your eye dilation and the sweat, like your tongue sort of going dry. All of these fear responses. You get the sense as you move that electricity around, and you're trying to break it off, and it's that pulling away that lets you sort of clear your head enough to realize that just made me go up to 11 on the fear spectrum, right? And so you think that this thing might feel, or it might be used to make people feel things, or at least is able to change your mood or your physiology in that way. So you're able to pull with that good roll. I'm imagining that once you realize that, you're sort of moving your electricity around naturally to separate its connection to you a little bit. So you your heart rate comes down and you calm a bit, but it's still trying to push past you. So you sort of have to keep your mental guard up. Okay,
great. I will focus on that. And I'll also are we all together at this point kind of? And I will, I'm not someone who sort of talks about my talents very much. And so I will underinflate kind of my skill level and what I'm doing, but I'm going to mention that, I'm going to mention what just happened and talk about that, how it was connected to my heart. And it seemed, the bracelet actually seemed to make me feel fear. And I am also pretty angry about that. I'm angry about the whole thing, but the fact that now I have this thing on my body that is screwing the thing that really matters to me is just so infuriating. It's unbelievably maddening.
I will probably then use my own skill at sort of assessing dangers to myself, and I will take a look at the wristband from that point of view and just see in which. I mean, I don't know anything about the Numenera, but if there are things that are threatening me, I usually have a pretty good sense about it, and I'm usually able to kind of see what that danger is. So mostly I'm just trying to confirm what she said, but I'll try to see if I can learn anything as well.
Excellent. Why don't you make me a roll as you're sort of sussing it out? This sounds like a sort of.
I will use. I'm assuming this is intellect. I'll use a level of effort as well as my skill.
Great.
And I roll a 12.
Okay, great. So what you're sort of ascertaining as Alara walks you through what happened and how it suddenly came out of nowhere, right? You're sort of our sneaky person, right? You're our picks pockets and is sort of got an eye in these sorts of situations, or at least you have pickpocket.
Some people might think of me that way. I don't know.
I don't want to pigeonhole you, but excellent. So as Alara's walking you through this, you're trying to figure out, your danger sense leads you to be like, okay, this thing is attached to us. So what's the trigger that would happen to this? This is sort of where your senses, was it just an error, or was it like something triggered it? And as you were walking, you had noticed like these, the night was getting darker and these stars were coming in. And so you're looking around for something that like might be different about this new place that's causing the wrist to like change. Right. And can anyone make me, why don't you make me another roll that's sort of like, so you think that it's possible there was a trigger. If you would like to suss it out, that might be like a perception roll or like going around and looking.
Yeah. And again, I'm specifically looking for anything that would be dangerous, but I'll look around for anything. And I roll a 10.
Okay. Do you say what you're doing, or are you just immediately into sort of investigation mode?
I'm not that used to operating with a group yet, so I probably don't say anything at this point. This doesn't occur to me. Hopefully I will learn.
Right. Excellent. So you're looking around, and you sort of walk back where Alara had stopped as she felt this thing, sort of change her mood. And you notice that there is, you sort of look off in the distance, and even though it's dark, it's just sort of lit by kind of starlight. There are occasional pockets of light of little aldeas, sort of down in the plains, and there are, sort of glowing, mysterious, probably dangerous ancient Numenera structures. And there's something whirling around a glowing pillar, like, way many, like hundreds of feet below you. There's like a floating pillar, and there's something that seems to be whirling around it faster and faster. And that seems to be what, like, you've come close to that looks like of anything dangerous to you, right?
And we're still not that far away from the scaly tower, right?
The scaly tower? You're not that far, but
but they don't.
You're maybe an hour further.
Oh, okay. Okay, then never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I will just then say, I wonder if what that thing did has anything to do with that, and I'll point at the floating pillar thing.
Excellent. Alara, when you see that, your fine senses of like what might be electric, even at a pretty far distance, you see cascades of sort of current running through this, and little sparks flying off of it. So there's this floating, probably electrical something or other that's got to be very big to be seen from kind of far away. And there seems to be some kind of torrent around it, pulling. And actually, as you're sort of standing there, like listening, you can kind of hear like a crunch of a tree getting pulled, like ripped out, and you can see the outline of this like big tree getting whipped up into this torrent and then pulled to shreds. So that is it. It seems like, and sort of as you're watching, the like torrent that's around it pulls the top off of that floating electrical structure, and a bunch of sort of electrified looking plasma shoots out the top of it. And it is like shoots so far that it is starting to sort of rain down something on you, on you guys, unless you kind of hustle out of the way. So it is
hustle.
All right.
Does this seem to be like the Iron Wind doing something, or something else?
It is hard to tell. Have any of you been in the presence of the Iron Wind before? I have a bug on my microphone. This is the best birthday. It is
like
so
a living
charming.
insect or
a living big bug.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry. Yes.
So claims to have been around the Iron Wind many times, but
okay,
it's probably not true.
Excellent. It very well could be, but the Iron Wind is so, there's so little knowledge about it that it's hard to tell. It's something causing a dismantling stir down there. Whatever it is bad. And I'm going to need speed defense rolls from all of you as you sort of realize that plasma that shot up impossibly high and is starting to fall down on you as you try to dodge out of the way. It flew at me. I'm sorry. Oh, buddy. All right. Let me know your rolls. I'm going to free this guy. Thank you, buddy.
Hey, Grandpa Iron, did you used to be called Grandpa Wind?
Grandpa Iron doesn't get your joke, so he just looks at you.
If we weren't in the middle of dodging something dangerous, I would pretend to laugh at that joke.
As you should.
I like that it's always pretending to laugh at those jokes. You keep it up. Excellent. So who surpassed a level 5 difficulty? Nobody?
I did with my level of effort that I applied to my speed defense roll.
Excellent. So you'll tell me how you get out of the way, but the other three, you're trying to dodge out of the way, but these plasma, these like glowing, like kind of lava lampy looking, right? Like bits of something. They're sort of like undulating as they're falling toward you. A couple of them are just really hard to dodge, right? Some are big, some sort of fell in like a wave. And so you see these lights being, like a beautiful meteor shower, if it wasn't coming into your face, sort of spread all across the plains below. And you don't have very, very far to run, right? You're sort of like a huge drop below, huge height above. And so the three of you are hit by one of these. And I am going to roll on the cosmetic mutation table because that's what's happening. Oh, I'm not going to roll. Could you guys roll a percentile for me?
Each of us different ones?
Yes.
I rolled a 90.
A 90?
Mm-hmm.
Black lips. Your Kalis. I'm not sure if you rouge your lips or anything, but so one must I'm imagining, Kalis, you might have like pretty much gotten out of the fray. You sort of dodged everything, but one little speck just sort of split off from one of the other like plasma things and hit you right in the lip. And so all of your lip skin sort of quickly shift. It almost feels like they're burning, like from some kind of like really spicy like food or something. You get that sort of numbness, that hot tingle on your lips, and you will find out shortly when you get to look at yourself that they have turned black. What about you, Alara?
I rolled a 65.
Cool. Long fingers. So I'm not sure where it hits you, but so it's a pretty minor thing. You may not even notice right away. One of these. Do you think it's just one hand that hit you, or is it both?
I am pretty physically active, so if I got hit, I probably only got hit like with one.
Cool.
Like one
Excellent.
spot.
Excellent. Do you think it's just one finger, or is it your whole hand?
I know how it works, so.
Excellent. It's the Iron Wind, so it's always a little fuzzy. So I'm imagining that your four fingers, your non-thumb finger on one of your hands, sort of got just gently splattered with just like almost a mist of that plasma, right? And it's really hot to the touch initially, but you sort of flick it off, and the little blob that had caught on you gets flicked off, but you feel your phalanges starting to like get really tight and like too tight in their skin, right? As they are starting to grow too long. And what about our dear friend Chem?
46.
46. Purple eyes. So you get one right in the eye.
I was trying to catch it with my eye, actually. It was the clever thing to do.
Yes. You're like, the trick is not to move. These won't hurt us. And you, or so somehow, maybe you don't look that foolish, but you dodge out of like a number of the big plasma falls, but like one sort of catches you maybe on your helmet a little bit, but immediately sort of splits as it sort of hits you in the face a little bit. You wipe your eyes, but they've already started to change. So Grandpa Iron, how do you get out of the way of this? Or do you?
I have thews of steel and iron, and so I just activate my my quickness reflexes, and I just jump out of the way.
Awesome. So
I
more
move
limber
much
than we've seen
quicker.
you.
Oh yes, I move much quicker when I activate my my exoskeleton, endoskeleton, than you'd expect for a man my age.
Excellent. Is it subtle, or does it like pop out of places and do you look like more
It probably
mech-like?
lights up a little bit. You know, if you look
Okay.
at my art, you see metal where you might not expect it to be, and so I just suddenly, you know, oh my gosh, he says as he's sailing away out of this
Excellent.
area of effect.
Excellent. So a number of you are feeling some painful feelings on your fingers, your lip, or your eyes, but I'm imagining you were still kind of mid-run away from the effect of this place. No, Kalis?
I'm running as fast as I possibly can. Yes.
Excellent. So you the four of you don't even have time to sort of process what's happening because you're still getting out of the field of this. There was sort of a crackling noise that had happened down by that structure, and it sort of quieted, and you can see that that the light from that floating pillar is now not obscured by any more of that torrential like winds. Things seem to have dropped. Seemed to be like a very quick event, but you still run clear of any of the sort of remaining falling shrapnel. You round a bend and you sort of come. You're coming down sort of like sort of a gentle slope toward where the road sort of widens out, and these hexagonals are looking more clear and less like tight. You sort of are coming off of this like high ledge and ravine, and you can actually see really far in the distance, but some lights that might be like villages outlying Bodrov. Maybe not villages, but little households. You sort of have this high point of reference. So you have this sloped hill. This, if you might be an okay place to crash for the rest of the night. You really run ragged at this point. So
as we're running, you guys probably see that I've activated my shock to make sure that my hands still do the thing that I love that they do, despite now the fact that one of them is much longer. And so my fingers are crackling with electricity as I run in the dark.
Excellent. And so you're sort of lit, which probably looks very cool too, right?
You probably hear me going, "Thank Krill."
So when you stop to catch your breath, what do you guys do? So when you start looking at each other, you can tell that three of you have changed a little bit. Lara has a longer hand. Chem has purple eyes that are slowly becoming purple. I'm imagining that even the little blood vessels of the eyes have like just a fine line of purple instead of red where they should be.
It just makes me even more handsome.
I'm probably gonna if it seems as though we're at least remotely safe.
Yeah.
I am just gonna sit down on the ground and probably just focus all my energy on keeping from weeping, because this has probably been one of the worst nights that I have had in a very, very long time. I hate it out here, and there's been demons and the iron wind, which I didn't even think either of those things were real, and I'm just okay. I just got to keep calm. I'm just going to say that over and over again. Just got to keep calm. This is so I'm going to get through this.
Grandpa Iron will start trying to build a shelter, or build a fire. I mean, assuming we're far enough away from this extrusion of physical law breakdown, anyway, then he will start going around, realizing that was not good.
Mm-hmm. There's some like kind of one of those hexagonal panels that you've been walking on is sort of like fallen away from the road. It seems to have been kind of like pried up, and there's nothing actually underneath this one. So when there's water beneath the last one, it just seems like maybe it's even been filled in. There's just like drit where the hexagon used to be, but that big hexagon will make kind of a nice like lean-to. There's some other materials around that you can kind of go about. So you just stoically start building shelter. Yeah, Kalis is having a bit of a moment. Is Chem or Alara? How are you guys doing? How do you react?
Well, if Chim were a lesser man, he would not interrupt Lair. But if you were a lesser man, then he would point out that he wanted to stop back at that scaly tower instead of running on to this next thing. But I'm kind of at a loss because I'm not particularly good at talking to people who aren't as smart as me. So I'm just kind of patting Kalis on the back and be like, "It's going to be fine. There's horrible stuff out here, but we survived together."
I'm going to sit very quietly, not super close to Kalis, but and just sort of open my pocket and say, "Will make you feel better if I let you pick my pocket?" with kindness, not with sarcasm. But I'm also gonna I do have some food and stuff, and so I'm gonna put it out and sort of bring some element of the city, which I am also seriously missing right now, kind of bring that to this space that we're sitting in, hopefully.
Yeah. Is there sort of a signature snack or pastry or something that would really feel like home that you sort of, brought along as this was your emergency, or sort of a really treasured bit of food that you brought? I'm just curious what cuisine is like in the City of Echoes. Any ideas?
Not for me. Food is not probably my thing. But I will, as I'm trying to kind of calm myself and just level things off and everything, I will reach into my pocket and pull out a small little book, which is it's not really a journal. It's just a little calendar, and I tick off the days, and I just tick off today, and I just sigh and fold that up and put it in a pocket.
Chem?
I'm smart. I know Kalis pretty well. At least I'm trying to, do this. I'm going to use head magic to kind of put on a little show of juggling and just kind of a fun little thing. I'm going to juggle some shins, change their colors, do some stage magic sort of thing to be like, pull out one from behind your ear. There you go. Just trying to be entertaining.
All right. So the attempt at that is probably levels me off a little bit, and I will suddenly say, "Cham, you are delightful."
Well, thank you.
Oh.
And then I will look over at Alara, and I'll just kind of shrug.
Excellent. So Grandpa Iron has a pretty solid place to rest your weary bones and machine parts for the evening. So I think you all let me know if there's anything else you do to prep, but this whole time you've been sort of setting up and catching your breath. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of wildlife in this area. This is actually where another road from the north is sort of comes through. So it seems to be more cleared away, a sort of more traveled part of the road than you may have been on for some of that. So do you crash for the night, set up any defenses, or?
So I have some of the devices with me that I used to use in the theater. And in one of them it makes sort of light creatures. And so I'm going to activate that device so that we have these sort of light creatures to give us light, and sort of, they're kind of warm, not physically, but in this sort of glow, they kind of feel homey and comforting. And so I'm going to pop a couple of those up around the space that we're sitting to kind of sort of make us feel a little like we're not so lost in the woods.
Absolutely.
That's a very good idea. Actually, I have an oddity that makes a little holographic fish just kind of swim around in the air. I will put that next to your little light creatures.
We're also lost.
Oh.
I think about checking out all those scales that I grabbed, but I probably am just going to collapse and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. You maybe fall asleep with your hand sort of almost in your pocket, ready to investigate. But what about you, Grandpa Iron? Does Grandpa Iron rest like normal?
Grandpa Iron sees that everyone's kind of bedding down for the night, and he will put up a valiant effort to take the first watch like he used to do when he worked in mercenaries. So, but he gets out his chair from next to the space and sits in it. And, he makes it for a few hours before he dozes off.
Excellent. Whether it's the fact that the horrible matter-changing explosion scared everything off for the night, or whether it's just that it's very peaceful here, you sleep a really deep, restful, nurturing sleep, and the morning wakes you with like warm sunlight coming through, and that hexagon that you're using as sort of a lean-to has a really beautiful, like, dappled pattern in it from the sort of light coming through the tree that you're sort of pitched up against. And you've got just because of how far you got last night, even though it was deep into the night, you'll probably reach Bodrov by maybe early evening. So there will still be light, which is always nice.
Eat some rations and we head off down the. So are we following sort of a path, or are we just kind of are we blazing our own trail?
Yeah, this is actually an even more well built up path, and this whole we can maybe montage this, because I think we'll get you to Bodrov at the end of this, but where the city of Echoes is really insular, and so there's sort of farmland outside, but there aren't a lot of like real communities outside. It's sort of you're either in the city or you're like out in the farmland. As you get closer to Bodrov, it seems like there are some little like proper villages with their own little stores, and some really, like, there's one village you pass that has a really cool like Numenera water pump that a lot of people are sort of hanging at. It's this cool like marketplace. It seems to be like you've found the equivalent of like a farmer's market type thing where people have come out and are all gathering. So that might be a nice place for you to stop and rest and see people and feel safe. Do you guys stop, or do you keep going?
We stop, get some water, ask some questions.
Yeah, what do you want to ask people there?
Find a place to stay.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Grandpa Iron, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, so tell me about this place called Bodrov.
There's a kid with a hat that has two really big like anine ears on it, like felt sort of local herd animal anine ears, and like that kid is having a great time. It's this little boy. He's got these big anine ears and he's jumping around as though he were sort of a little hoppy anine. And so as soon as you sort of start trying to talk to maybe some of the adults, he like barges in and he's like, I've been to Bodrov. I've been to the city. They have these cookies. And he starts telling you about like a lot of kid stuff. And, he saw a show there once. They have a theater, and he like tells this to you as though it should be the most earth shattering, idea. And of course you're all, vastly, I imagine like you think that your theater in the city of Echoes is much grander than Bodrov could possibly have. But what do you say to him?
Slow down there, Sonny. Not quite sure I caught all that, I say, but I looked at everything else because hopefully they're near me and they're catching it out.
Yep. So there is a some sort of parental unit sort of walks over. They are a Vargellen, so you don't get a lot of visitants in the city of Echoes. Again, they're really insular. They're sort of they've been a good protected city for so long, they say, because they keep to themselves. But this seems to be a little more cosmopolitan of an area. So there's this Vargellen. So this is a taller humanoid with kind of like scaly, dry kind of looking skin, and they've got this big fin crest. They've got a sort of with rays coming off of it and little webbing between. This Vargellen, hard to tell sort of what gender presentation. I don't think you guys would necessarily know, but they're wearing a sort of like really nice looking vest, and like they've got like a cool scarf. They look like very well dressed and seem to be very like well respected. As you see, they seem to be sort of like, they seem like kind of the local power figure, right? And so this Vargellin walks up to the child and sort of pats him. Now, let's see, what is that kid's name? Boss Teth. Run along now. Don't pester the visitors. What can I do for you? Are you traveling to Bodrov?
Yes.
Well, you're in luck. I'm glad you were able to stop by our market day. It's lovely. You should definitely stop for some of the pressed fruits, the juices of which are, people travel from all around to come to our marketplace just for that. But you're not far from the city, and I can of course acquaint you if you need any directions.
We don't have a lot of money. Is there a place in the city of Bodrov that you would recommend us go to find work?
What sort of skills do you have?
Well, I don't like to brag, but I know a lot about the Numenera.
Then you'll have several opportunities there, perhaps. Some of you nanite wielding, wizards tend to set up their own shop. I know there's several that specialize in healing, or there's quite a few that are in this cartography club. They say so. They're sort of explorers. You probably don't want to get too tangled up with them. They're sort of a wild lot, but they do usually have, because their work is so dangerous, they usually have needs for those perhaps foolish enough to try for the shins. And he lists off a couple other things of places that you might be able to go ask to find work. It's the city isn't huge, but it's definitely got some institutions. It's got groups of people who are focused on something or other. And Bodrov, one thing he does tell you about it is that they have recently, there was sort of a recent draft, basically, by the Aeon papacy to send some soldiers up north to investigate the Gaians. And so they're actually a little light on sort of able-bodied hands because some of the people have sort of left. So there may even be more vacancies than usual.
All right. I will make note of the places that this Vargellin told us we should go. Mm-hmm. My mind is like an azure steel trap, so I will recall all those names and the directions perfectly.
Excellent. The Vargellin, at some point introduces themselves. I'm Beatriz, at your service. I'm the local, elected official. So please come to me if you need anything. I hope you enjoy your stay in our humble little village.
What's this place called?
Oh, why this? Well, most of us just call it the village, but I'm told by the Cartographer Club that we are technically Charlan, some ancient hero or something. There's that water fountain, of course, the meeting place. I think Charlan was the one who got it working again and built this village up. But the details are vary by which tavern you visit in the night and which and so forth. So.
Is this a market that's only like foodstuffs, or are there devices and sort of
there's a tinkerer's cart manned by a very curly-haired young woman who looks like, kind of making eyes at you of like, getting ready to give you the sales pitch. So this there's definitely a tinker's cart that you may want to look through as someone specialized in the Numenera. Definitely caught your eye.
I very much want to get this thing off my wrist, because it is a sign of it makes me angry every time I look at it. So I'm gonna check out her cart. I'm happy to listen to her spiel, because sometimes people know things that are useful. And so I'm happy to listen to her while I dig through there. And I'm really looking for additional things that can teach me about this or help me get it off. That kind of stuff.
Perfect. She gives you a very exuberant spiel. It becomes immediately clear that she has nothing to offer you in the way of like Numenera advice. This is just so much wrong that you almost can't like stand not telling them that they're wrong. Maybe you do tell them that they're wrong,
no.
but this young woman is sort of giving you the spiel and, you know, holding up this bit and bauble and telling you what it definitely doesn't do. A lot of warning against, you know, wards against the iron wind, wards against, you know, some kind of disease. There's, you know, this will bring you love, etc. But why don't you give me a roll to see, like, if you could find that diamond in the rough that you're looking for here.
So I'm specialized in the Numenera. I don't know if that helps as I'm searching. And I will spend a level of effort, and I roll an 11.
Oh wow, that's pretty solid. So you definitely find a cipher of some potential use to you. You actually find a couple things that you think she doesn't realize, like how valuable those materials are, and so those might be, you could probably like convince her to barter or buy those and sell them for more in Bodrov, since you actually know that like this is a really good like heat reflective surface. This is a really good conductor, right? You kind of know a lot about those. But the cipher you find, and you might be at your cipher limit, so you can sort of decide what to take or what to set aside. As you know, you almost like touch it, you can feel the other ciphers you have. Like there must be some shared energy field that's sort of not interacting very well. It is a little like clear crystal looking sphere. I guess it looks like the outside's crystal, but it's definitely like hollow on the inside. And there is a like orange flower sort of suspended in it. It seems to like float around as though there's sort of a gentle breeze no matter where you hold it. And you are specialized in the Numenera, and so you already kind of can figure out its function without having to roll. It's a portable biolab. Inside this device is a complex, self-sustaining ecosystem that creates a useful compound, plant, or creature. When the device is activated, it releases an orange-petaled flower that increases stamina when eaten, adding 1 to the user's might edge for an hour. So it's this. It keeps this special orange flower alive, and when you give it a gentle twist in a very specific way, it will release it and like really deeply enhance your ability to do strength type tasks.
So
what are you going to offer her for it if you want it?
So here's what I would like to offer her. I would like to take this cipher, which is, you know, decent cipher, and some of these things that are just sort of junky.
Yeah.
And I have this really cool ray emitter you can numb the limb of a target. So you like, if somebody who comes in and wants to do combat is going to really love this device. All you have to do is do this, and I show her how to use it.
Wow.
And the person can't use their limb at all. It's just glorious. And so I'm going to try to trade her for that thing. They'll give me all 3.
I think, yeah. I think she's, especially since you're willing to walk her through, like, this is how you use it. That's a little more than she's often able to do. So I think she's very happy to trade something she knows the function of for, yeah, that's a lovely flower. It complements your eyes and those long fingers of yours. It just looks so, you know, so nice in your hand. So yeah, she gives you about like 15 shins worth of like scrap that is actually very valuable. And then she's happy to trade that cipher for you.
Cool.
So she feels she leaves looking very happy, pleased with herself. So everybody wins.
I'd like to come up like in the middle of that conversation and just I'm going to stand next to Alera and just kind of nod and smile and listen and everything. And I'll occasionally interject, you know, yes, we're travelers. We came here from Shallamas. You know, and then I'll drop sort of in the middle of their conversation. I'm going to drop in that like we encountered the iron wind last night.
Do you drop it loudly, or are you just
I just want her like as part of a conversation, like, oh my gosh, it was the worst thing ever. And then when Alera is done with her transaction, I'm going to pull out one of those scales. But I haven't even really looked at it yet. I'm going to pull out one of those scales, and I'm going to say, you know, I don't know anything about the Numenera. I don't know anything about the Iron Wind or anything, but I can tell you this: I was struck full on by the Numenera, or by the Iron Wind, and look what it did to my lips. But that's all it did, and I think it was because I had this.
Oh my gosh. You
And I would like to
monster.
try to sell that to her.
That's great. That's delightful. Let's see if she buys your story, right?
Sure.
She has been selling protections against the Iron Wind for a long time now. So, is this a deception, or do you think that's a reasonable? Yeah.
No, this is a deception.
So,
I know that.
Yes. You gonna spend any effort or have any skills?
Yes, I am gonna. Okay. I am skilled in lies and trickery.
Oh, great.
And I will use a level of effort as well. So I'll be reducing difficulty by 2.
All right, give me that roll.
Okay, and the roll is a 14.
Okay, hook, line, sinker. Yeah, she wants to buy more than she wants to like buy several off of you. Are you only willing to part with one? You don't really know what they do yet.
How much is she offering? What is she offering?
She's like pulling out, as you sort of give her the hard stare, she like, she initially is like, here's a handful of baubles, here's this, here's that, here's something. But as you sort of give her a little arched eyebrow, she looks like debates for a moment and then sort of goes underneath the cart and she pulls out like a little chest that's like, it's wooden. It's from one of these local, like beautiful hardwood trees. It's been polished. It's clearly her, like, a very valuable item to her. And she slides open a little, it doesn't have any hinge or anything that's clear, but she sort of pushes through a couple of these blocks of wood. And she, almost before you can even know, she's like, puzzle opened it, right? It's like this strange contraption. And she looks inside and she's like, "What are you in the market for?" And she looks at you very seriously. So, what could I offer you? I have my ways. Protection.
Actually,
she just starts listing things like, right, like protection or do you want to change your appearance, etc.
Actually, what I'd really like is something that allows me to resist like the effects of a Numenera device that would be used against me. Do you have anything like that?
She nods. So what I can get you is a let's see. I don't know if I have the cipher card like on my hand, but it is going to be she has a cipher that or she tells you, right, it's a little cube. It's a little like pretty kind of like lacquered cube. So it's got these like, shiny colored patterns on it. And she says, if you like, there's a little port in it. And if you like blow gently in it while humming, she's like, I promise you, that's how you have to do it. I know, the Numenera, right? But if you like blow into this little cube while humming, it will erect an invisible like wall of some kind of force that keeps anything that might be coming at you at bay. I think even the effects of possibly the Iron Wind, it might be able to keep you shielded in that section. Does that strike your fancy?
Sure,
you won't believe what I had to do to get this.
Yeah, I bet. If you threw in enough shins for me to buy breakfast for myself and my 3 friends, we could call it a deal.
Excellent. So how many of those scales are you willing to give her?
I am going to admit that I have more than the one. I have 2.
Okay. Excellent. She snatches the 2. You have enough shins to buy a pretty extravagant breakfast and sort of food for the road. And you have this portable force shield protector type cipher, which I will find the card for later and give you the specifics.
And I am over my cipher limit.
I was wondering.
Oh yeah, great. End of day, we'll make a roll.
And so I bring everybody breakfast, and I say, "Look, I got us all breakfast."
Thank you, Kayla.
I am having this wonderful warring emotion where I don't I don't feel that strongly that what Kayla's is doing is a bad thing, but man, it's fun to watch. Like, amazing. I don't know quite where to put that.
It's an art, you know, and she's a master.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of feeling the same way about what Lair did, because I know that Kalis is bluffing and lying, but Lair was just actually being personable and talking to this person and getting them interested. And so, like, as we're eating, I'm going to talk to you, Lair, and say, so I really would like to, study how you talk to people of suboptimal intelligence more and make them feel comfortable with your presence. I really think I need to learn this for my future goals.
What?
I would like to talk to you about how you talk to people of suboptimal intelligence so that I can learn that for my future goals.
I'll rub Jem's shoulder as like his upper arm a little bit, and I'll say, you have so much trouble interacting and dealing with people who just aren't as smart as you. It's really a shame.
It's really a burden.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Kalis, the look I'm shooting you right now.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't talking to her, I was talking to the machines. You have to know the machines are smarter than all of us. You just have to talk to the machines. And you can't talk down to machines because they will zap you.
Well, I know that, but there was a woman doing the exchange there. You have to, take it a step. I could talk to the machines. We'll work on this.
We will.
We flashed to Grandpa Iron. Like, what has Grandpa Iron been getting up to? Has he been like sitting in his chair or getting into trouble?
I continue to watch the fountain make all those pretty splashes. Yes, resting my feet.
You've got, a
taking a few
mimosa
sips from my flask, waiting for this nice respite to, just enjoy respite, in fact.
And breakfast.
Now.
In your chair. I'm going to figure out how to turn that into a love seat. So more of a sit. That's my
love seat, you say? Well, I like the sound of that.
Oh my gosh. That's delightful. So you have a really lovely respite, but at some point it becomes if we stay any longer, we might risk, having daylight for when we get to Bodrov. So let me know if there's any final stuff you want to do, but otherwise you sort of made a good impression on the community, telling your stories of surviving the Iron Wind, but haven't caused too much chaos. So good job, guys. So you set off, and again, it's only getting more populated as you get closer to Bodrov. You're still following these hexagonal panels in the road, and now they're like actually well kept. So the drit is sort of pushed to the side. There's actually like a point you reach in the road where everywhere ahead of you, it's like the drit is almost pulled like statically or something away from the road. It's just like perfectly clear. And so you have this lovely hexagonal path leading your way. And as you come up upon Bodrov, you can sort of see it alongside these villages and everything. There's sort of a couple of towers. There's a really different kind of architecture. There seems to be some like interesting shingled material that must be prevalent here that people have used on top of these what seems to be kind of an old facility of some sort. Like it seems to be built on the bones of some larger contraption, and Bodrov itself only sits on sort of one part of it. So you can actually see like a plateau of some kind of metal or hard substance like extending beyond it. And it actually, a number of people sort of mill about on it, and you can see some people like fighting. It seems to be sort of like a training ground or something is sort of what it's being used for. But you have reached Bodrov. Anything you guys want to do while you're here, or before you get into the city proper?
So
why don't you all make me a quick perception roll, and then I'll sort of tell you what other important details you notice.
It's very high.
16.
So I've been here before, but I also rolled a 13.
Okay, good.
I don't know if being here before makes me more or less perceptive.
That is a philosophical question.
I rolled 1.
A 1. Woof. Okay. That is a GM intrusion, right? Exciting. Chem, what did you roll?
17.
17. Okay. So I'm thinking that Kalis and Chem, that like it's not so much that you notice anything about the city, but you get a shift in like there are people sort of milling about, people taking their business to the city and everything, and there's like kind of a stifled air, right? Like the people's personalities back in that village were like really cheery, having a good time. It was market day, but there's sort of people are a lot more guarded here than you would expect. That's something you notice. The Grandpa Iron, with your 1, it's just to see stuff. So I'm imagining like, maybe there's like a couple of dogs that are sort of, following people. And so you are doing your, I'm Grandpa Iron, I've been in the war, and I'm sort of, giving a good scouting like position. And you sort of totally don't notice as you're walking straight over one of these dogs. And so you look very foolish, but ultimately are not harmed. So
You're sorry about that.
You notice that the dogs are both back halves of them are totally mechanical, and they look totally fine and unperturbed. They wag their mechanical little vertebral tail very happily.
I like these dogs. They're like me.
They are like you.
I wonder if there were some front half machine dogs that are like, patrolling on the opposite side of town.
Oh, you are so funny.
I actually wasn't joking that time.
Oh. I mean,
I'm kidding. I was joking.
You are so funny.
Oh, no. Kalis, did you have something to say before I asked for rolls?
I was going to say we need to find these skilled cartographer people, right? And see if they can help us get these bracelets off. Otherwise we're gonna have to just do whatever the bracelets make us do.
Yeah, I have some questions. I want to talk to the AM priest here too. I mean, he's just supposed to just keep us back.
Yeah, I don't know anything about religion or popes or anything like that. So I don't have any idea of what we're actually supposed to be doing, following this dude's walk or whatever. But I don't. Does anyone here know anything about that? Like what we're actually supposed to be doing?
Well, I mean, they wanted us to do the walk, and it's probably just an excuse to get rid of us. But we have a few leads on people who might be able to help us get these things disconnected from our energy structure or whatever Lair would call it. So I think we should talk to the Aeon Priest, talk to the cartographer Aeon Priest as well.
Right, but if they can't help us, what are we supposed to do?
We're supposed to explore along the walk, like I used to do.
And that's the way that the caravan went, right? Or is this part of the walk too?
This is part of it. So there were a couple of like landmarks basically that is sort of arranged in a circle of like important places where Kalaval, the original, Aeon priest, the beginner of the Order of Truth, etc., like enacted miracles or had important events. So there's something in Bodrov, you've been led to believe, where there's, it's he did something here that was important. And so if you could, the Aeon priest told you, go walk along it, like report back, and if you like they were sort of using doublespeak when they talked to you, right? They were like, you'll learn things along the way about yourself. They were sort of giving you this like self-improvement spiel, but the subtext was, if you come back with important enough information about stuff we care about, like related to Kalaval, then that's when we'll let you back in. So they were like, find us useful information about these Numenera or sites or whatever.
I definitely understand that. Kalis does not. She probably wasn't listening to that when they were talking about that part. So I want to know if any of the other characters like
Who
knows
might?
what we're supposed to do in Bodrov.
Well, if they explained it like that, then Chem will try to kind of talk down to Kalis a bit and just, just in a way that she would understand. Not that she's stupid, she's just not as smart as I am. And say,
Of course not.
Yes, of course not. Say something like, the priests want us to visit the sites that the first Amber Pope went to so that we can learn more about him and perhaps discover something valuable to them. And if we do that, we'll have proved our worth to come back and they'll remove these things off of our wrist. So we're just going to go to each of these points, do some research about Calaval, and hopefully that'll be enough.
Okay. So it seems like we have two goals here then. We've got to figure out what Mr. Pope did, and we have to, and where he went in Bodrov or whatever. And then we got to find these map people and see if they can help us. I'm worried that they're not going to be able to.
Well, we'll cross that span when we reach it.
Yeah, I
Right
don't
here.
understand why the Aeon priests have hooked us with these devices that are doing damage to our bodies if they really want us to go and bring back this information. I think that there's something else going on here, whether they are the ones who are responsible for the death of our friend and are trying to keep us from that information or something else. I think that there is something else that we are going to get to the bottom of. And I have no doubt that the papacy is going to be the horribleness of whatever we discover. They're just such horrible people. I can't believe they did this to us.
I agree. I can't believe anybody would run a religious cult this way. It could be so much, more efficient and clear in its goals.
Grandpa Iron seems a little taken aback about you guys talking this way about the Aeon papacy. Kind of
sure-
grumbles under his breath. I don't know about that.
Back in my day.
Awesome. So I think we'll probably end the session unless you have like one more thing you want to do as you're sort of, you've reached the gates of Bodrov. There are these really beautiful like curtains, like there's sort of like cloth textile something like hanging from some large opening in this like structure that's sort of Bodrov is built in and on. And so there are these like really pretty multicolored threads of some sort of sparkly thread in it as well, sort of like pulled to the side, very welcoming and pretty. And there's sort of a bustling, main thoroughfare that you sort of walk in on. Is that a good spot to end for you guys?
I'm definitely more relaxed here. This is definitely my terrain.
Excellent. Civilization.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Bodrov's a little cold shouldery, but it's no Shallamas, but it's fine for a little while.
It's better than sleeping on the dirt.
Excellent. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed tuning in tonight. Thank you for, I love seeing the chat. It's really fun to get to play for you all live. This is super, super fun. We will pick this up again in 3 weeks, actually. So we've got, ECCC and you're going to see Monte Games folks running around all sorts of places in the coming few weeks. So get excited. But I believe we're picking it back up like March 20, but I should have written down the date. But in 3 weeks on, again, a Tuesday at the same time. So let us know what you liked. Let us know your favorite moments of the show. And of course, tune in on Friday as we have a really, 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 really awesome, like possibly my favorite. I mean, I'm probably going to remember all of these sessions of The Raven Wants What You Have as my favorite, but I am so excited for you to see what happens in part 2 of the 3 gifts first action mode session of The Raven Wants What You Have. So please tune in on Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's just an hour long, and we are, lots of us are active in chat, so we'd love to see you and like experience it along with us. So please go check out that Invisible Sun actual play, The Raven Wants What You Have, on our Twitch channel. Follow our Twitch. Love our Twitch. Tell us what you like. And we are so excited to be bringing you more games and also other cool events like cool interview chats and what else were we doing? A whole bunch of good things.
Up group.
Yes, a book group. We're going to be reading Roadside Picnic, which is very good for Numenera inspiration. So check out our website and you'll find all the information there. Thank you so much, everybody. Anybody want to have final words, or are we ready to wish them yay to
Happy
see?
birthday, Darcy!
Happy birthday, Darcy.
This is a perfect way to celebrate my birthday. And there was a bug on my microphone. I can't express how exciting this is. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.